Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 258 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission, it's a simple one. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm recording this episode early because by the time it airs, I will be at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard doing some situational awareness consulting and training for the Naval Sea Systems Command, or NAVSEA for short. This is the second naval shipyard to hire our company to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at their facilities. I am very thankful to the NAVSEA command staff for your faith and confidence in my message. And while I will be in Hawaii, this is no vacation. The assessment will take 10 to 12 hours each day and will be followed by 3 days of customized training. All right, in today's feature segment, it's part 3 of a 3-part interview with members of the Thornton, Colorado Fire Department about a Mayday event that they had. Fire-Medic Roy Lapid was working on Thornton Fire Truck Company 75 for a single-family residential dwelling fire. Roy entered the first floor of the structure and started to complete a primary search. However, he quickly found himself falling through the fire-weakened floor and into the basement below. This is Roy's story, supplemented by observations from Captain Bret, Wentworth, and Lieutenant Cody, Larson.
I got out and I went straight to the front door, and I actually opened the front door and touched the door. It actually felt warm. I didn't see any fire, but I could see smoke coming out from the eaves and up through the roof. We got the hose line ready, bled it, and prepared to make entry. The front door was locked on the house. We did have to force the door. And me and Firefighter Morris were the first 2 to make entry into this house.
When the crews forced entry in the Alpha side door, there was an abundance of smoke that came out the front side. It was light gray smoke. It was not heavy black smoke, and no flames were seen. With reported light to moderate heat in the front doorway.
Made entry through the front door in the Alpha. It was a cold day, so immediately my mask condensed and fogged up. I was able to clear it with one wipe. Light smoke in the room. I saw maybe about 10, 15 feet in front of me.
Since we didn't have a good handle on homeowners, where they were at, my thought process is that we needed to get a search completed on the house to make sure that we had accountability of where the homeowners were at.
There was a staircase on the left, so I walked past the staircase and the hose lines to the living room, and there was something dark on the left side of the room. It looked like a bookcase, so I took a peek to see if there was anyone behind that bookcase. I didn't see anyone.
My first job was to find where the basement was. I wasn't exactly sure where it was. I started right behind the front door, which looked like it was a closet, and I actually found the basement door right behind the front door.
we're at the stairwell to the basement. We have moderate heat. We're going to be making entry down to the basement.
Copy, making entry into the basement.
As I opened the basement door, I could see down the first run. It was half of a staircase. I could see the wall. So there was smoke coming up, but it wasn't dark smoke at all. And I wasn't really sure exactly what we had in the basement. As I turned, there was a return on the stairs, and I took one step, and the top step that was going down into the basement gave way, and firefighter Morris grabbed my pack, and he pulled me, and we both fell to that landing.
There's some decent smoke in there. I couldn't see Roy, and Van Dissel had said Roy just went through the floor right in front of me, and I was like, Mayday, 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 and just grabbed the mic and went with it. It was just like training. I mean, we'd gone through it before with the blue card stuff, and so I just didn't even think about it. I just knew that I wanted to be real clear about what I was saying. I couldn't believe it actually had happened. I mean, it really was 2 steps inside the door, and this isn't real.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Firefighter through the floor right inside the front door.
Copy, mayday, mayday, mayday. Priority traffic, in 6-3. Firefighter through the floor, front door.
Command and 7-3. Get in attic ladder at the front door.
Copy, attic ladder to the front door.
Because it was a very clear, very urgent but not stressful type of a mayday. And then it dawned on me that it was our mayday. It was somebody had gone through the floor on this particular house. From that time forward, for the next couple of minutes, were very chaotic. Span of control was lost. Crews rushed in to try and help, which complicated it even more. We did have a problem. We had several chiefs that were on hand. Everybody wanted to get in and help. And I lost my control for a little bit on who was doing what.
Command, we have firefighters will be coming off the outside. We also see no fire in the basement at this time.
Command copies, no fire seen in the basement.
Also, a firefighter has been extracted coming off the outside. We still have moderate heat in the house.
Firefighter has been removed, is in medical care. He is ambulating. All crews exit the structure and par.
So after taking a peek at that bookcase, my first step to the right, I instantly fell. It was a weird sensation. You never train for it or expect it. It happened so fast. I reached out initially, kind of felt some resistance, like I was able to catch myself, but then that gave through. I couldn't see initially. There was a lot of dust. I lost my tool during the fall. I was able to see light from the window on the Delta side, and then I could see light up above from the hole. I immediately looked up and called my crew, told them I was all right. Did a quick system check, nothing hurt. It was warm, there wasn't a lot of heat, but there was no smoke either. But the fact that I didn't have my tool and I couldn't really see well, I was in a tough predicament to self-extricate.
We came up with a plan instantly when I did go back upstairs, and I'm sure it sounded like a lot of chaos, but it was actually very calm on the interior, and the way it went was looking back, was very organized, even though it didn't feel like it.
I tried to reach for my radio. I couldn't grab a hold of the transmitter at first. Just out of the situation, just not really panic, just kind of the realization that I fell through the floor. So initially I was worried about getting burned, but right when I landed there was no sensation of heavy heat. So that was strange. It was pretty surreal. It wasn't what I expected, which was a good thing. I mean, I was expecting to get hurt pretty quick.
Looked down in there and I could see Roy, and he was like, I'm okay. So I knew he wasn't hurt right away, which was a good relief. And then right after that, I had somebody over my right shoulder right after I called the Mayday going, "What do you need?" It turned out it was Bittner, but I couldn't tell at the time, so I just went, "I need an attic ladder," and we threw it down there. And then Roy ended up getting himself up out of the basement with the stairwell. So it was definitely unexpected. I didn't see it coming for sure.
And I opened up the wall that was at the top landing of the stairway, and that's where I could see into the basement. I couldn't see the bottom of the stairs because it was very dark at the bottom of the stairs, but through that wall I could see firefighter paramedic Lapid standing there. There was no fire down there, it wasn't very smoky. And then at that point I heard them getting a ladder to go into the basement, and I called to firefighter paramedic Lapid and told him to come to me because I had no idea exactly what was in there. I wanted him to come and stay away from a collapse or whatever was in there.
Crew unity and identification is key. My intent was to get everybody organized, deploy a company for rescue, keep companies on deck, but things progressed so quickly that before I could even get crews identified, we had the firefighter out.
We had medical immediately available for him to check him out. He confirmed that he was not injured. We did an evacuation of the building and kind of reset ourselves because we still did not have the fire located.
Once we got the crews reset, reorganized, we allowed crews into the basement, into the first floor, and to the second floor to check for fire extension, to conduct a primary and secondary search to make sure that truly the fire was out.
The fire had extinguished itself. That's where the water had de-sweated the copper piping and had extinguished the bulk of the fire.
That was very hard, I think, for a lot of us to make that switch, thinking that you may have lost somebody, back into a strategy to attack the fire. That was a very hard transition to make.
And it is reliant upon the individual, the crews, to make sure that they don't self-deploy. As much as they want to, we still didn't know where the fire was at, and we still had a fire to put out, and so we really needed to make sure we had crews available to do that. You're going to run out of people, and you need people coming, and you need crews available to take over that, because it sucks up all your resources so quickly.
There's just an emotional thing when it happens for real. I know we train Mayday all the time, but I don't think you really get a real grip until that type of thing happens for real. And you instantly, not only are you trying to deal with the problem at hand in a very quick matter, you're also having a lot of emotional things when you think one of your brothers fell through.
The department has done a good job of training their people to be incident commanders, to be leaders, to deploy properly, matching the strategy to the incident. However, those policies that are not current or up to date have led to ambiguity or confusion as to what we're supposed to do in the event of a Mayday. We've assembled a team of people to review this incident thoroughly. We will review our policies, we will take their recommendations, and we'll make some adjustments so that our policies match really the way we're supposed to practice as an industry standard and the way we should practice in the best interest of our member safety.
It was just frustrating that it happened. But the way it ended up was a good situation. And I think it was important. I think as a department we needed that, just to show our guys that these things do happen and we're not immune to it. And all the training we do is for these situations. You always think it's not going to happen to you, but it did. So I'm just glad it didn't end up the way most of these things end up.
I'm really proud of the work that the crews did, and the work that the crews did that day overshadowed any shortcomings that we have in policy or in practice or personal behaviors.
And one thing I don't want to breeze over, because I would wonder too, and that I'm proud of that our fire department did, is the attention to the crews after this significant event happened. We had a formal debriefing, kind of a feeling sharing type of event. And then Roy, as stubborn as he may be, was directed and told many times to go home, heeded that advice, and then was taken care of. And I just feel like he was, would you say you're well supported? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
I don't want to
department gave me
breeze
a lot-
over that.
Yeah, the department gave me all the resources I needed to seek counseling or to take some time off. Initially, I didn't. I kind of stayed on shift, got all the aches and pains taken care of. And then there was a rash of bad calls that kind of just culminated into this situation that changed me.
Yeah.
So I did seek some counseling, got some treatment done, and it's changed a lot.
Okay.
So I was happy we're doing this. I want to be a poster boy for this, to one, be aware of what happened, and then two, let people know afterwards all the support you can get.
So, Roy, when this happened and they said, "Okay, Roy, go home. You've had a busy day," and you went home without digging too deep into your personal life. Did you have any conversations with anybody when you went home? Like, hey, guess what happened today?
I gotta get home.
Yeah.
I sugarcoated it. I told her, there was a fire. I fell, and they sent me home. I didn't really.
I fell.
Yeah.
I fell.
Pretty much.
Like tripped over a shrub.
No. I told her there was a hole and I fell through, and I'm not hurt. And here I am. I didn't tell her it's because a fire burned a hole through the floor and I fell through. Eventually, I did tell her the whole story.
But eventually,
yeah.
like days, weeks, months.
Days.
Days. Did she keep pumping you for information, or did you just feel like guilt was getting the better part of you and you need to come clean on this?
Probably more guilt.
Okay.
Yeah. It was more other coworkers' wives asking, because there was on that end too, the department was good as far as getting spouses and significant others together to try to talk about things, not just from this event, but just kind of overall get together. And they looked at her and they kind of gave her the puppy eyes, and she's like, "What's going on here?" So yeah, we did talk more, and she understood the situation afterwards. But I mean, no harm, no foul, I guess. So, but it was my fault that I didn't give her the whole.
You'd be surprised, Roy, how many people I interview that, even up to the day I interview them, and sometimes it's a year later, they'll say, "Yeah, I never really told my wife about what really happened." I said, "Well, did it ever occur to you that she might listen to the podcast now? So maybe before this airs, you might want to have a conversation." Right. You don't want it to be your first time hearing about it. You spilling it to to a worldwide audience, and her saying, "How come you never told me this?" Right. Yeah. So you're off the hook on that one, yeah. Right? She already knows.
But I think Valentine's Day is a good time to mention it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we are recording this on Valentine's Day, and all right. So, transition us to what were some of the lessons learned and the recommendations and changes that have been or are in process of being implemented. Because it doesn't sound like you guys, as many organizations do, will take an event like this and say, yeah, he fell through the floor. He didn't get hurt. It wasn't that big a deal. We called a Mayday. It was canceled in 3 minutes. Stuff happens, and they just go on, and they don't ever really do anything with it other than say, well, it's a dangerous profession, so things like this are going to happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that happened here. It sounds like you guys sat up and paid attention and said, let's learn from this. Mm-hmm. So what'd you learn from this?
Yeah, and that was, for me being new in training, during this, I was kind of tasked to just put all this together and be able to present something. And during this, I was like, is there enough here? Like, he's fine. He didn't get hurt. Like, do we really want to share this in the region? I'm all for sharing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just questioning myself.
Yeah, is this a big enough deal?
Yeah, but the more I talked about it, the more that I talked to people about it, the more value that I saw. And then I realized how much of a disservice like we've been doing to our people and the fire service for a long time by not being okay with knocking down our own barriers and sharing our failures and our successes, because our successes come out of our failures. So So for us, we realize that when we go around and talk about this, we tell people, for us now, we assume, and it sounds a little bit cliche, but we just assume that every single family dwelling has a basement, and just have that assumption. And during, whether it's a company officer or out-of-class officer, or whoever who's doing a 360 during their follow-up report, if there's any inclination, gut feeling, or anything about possible involvement with the basement, we've changed our basement fire policy to now include, it's okay to announce in a priority traffic type of manner on the radio that there's possible basement involvement, just right out of the chute early on the radio, so that as companies are responding, they're hopefully that's gonna heighten their situational awareness early on and hopefully prevent any type of negative outcome. We talked a lot about the thermal imaging cameras that we carry. We have one tick on every unit, every engine, every truck, and every medic unit, and the squad has one tick on it. The tick in this event was not, it was on the first arriving company, engine 7.3, it was left on the engine. It wasn't used on the exterior, and it wasn't used on the interior. And I don't know if it would have made any difference, but if you don't have it, you'll never know. So we've really talked to people about understanding the capabilities of your tick, and understanding the limitations of your tick, and then having a plan of who grabs it. Because a lot of company officers are different. They like to have it with them on their 360, and then we've talked about how do you use that on the 360 for basement fire, indicators. Where do you point the tick? But then have a plan to transition that tick to the interior too, if that company is going to be first due inside. But it wasn't used on the outside or inside.
What's the explanation for that? That's not the first time I've heard that. In a Mayday, with an incident that led up to a Mayday, that there were thermal imaging cameras on the apparatus that never made it inside, even after the Mayday. I mean, yours resolved quickly, but there are some that even after the Mayday, and they couldn't find them, that they didn't use thermal imaging as a tool to assist them. So you have all these imagers. Why were they all left on the truck? Then
I think it comes down to a little bit of complacency and not grabbing it for your false alarms, your smells and bells, and just making it a habit of having it. Not having those conversations about expectations on who's going to grab it, when is it going to get transitioned, if it's going to get transitioned to the interior, and training. I think we don't. In moments like this, moments of crisis, it's very, very, very rare that a person would rise to the occasion and do some heroic thing. You're going to typically fall back to how you operate and how you are trained.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're just not used to making it a habit, making it a muscle memory thing, and understanding its capabilities, but more importantly, understanding its limitations, then it's not part of your, it should be just like, grabbing your nozzle, grabbing a Halligan or whatever. So we've addressed that.
Okay.
And we keep working on that. Not to say that, that would have made a difference from the exterior, but talking to Fire-Medic at the time, who's now been promoted to Lieutenant Perry Otero, that was on engine 7.3, he stated to me that he felt like if he had it on the inside, this Roy falling through the floor could have been avoided. I don't know if that's true or not, but
hindsight's a lot clearer than the foresight. Yeah. But if whoever did the 360 would have had a thermal imager, knowing after the fact what you know about what level of heat was in the basement, would they have seen a thermal imprint on the frame of the windows? Would the basement windows look hotter than, because I don't really have a good sense as to how much heat was in the basement.
It was a cold smoke environment. And
okay.
So what happened, we should probably explain exactly what happened with the fire. This fire was started very, very early in the morning. It was the outcome of the investigation was undetermined. It was a very suspect fire. We couldn't prove that. And that was another reason that this took a long time, because it was under investigation for quite a long time. It was determined to be undetermined, but it was very suspect. It burned for a long time. The origin was somewhere underneath the stairs. There was a storage space under the stairs and adjacent to like a closet in the basement. There was a significant amount of combustibles found. Not atypical to store a bunch of stuff under the stairs for people, but that was the origin, was under the stairs. It burned long enough, unchecked by anybody, that it got into the ceiling. It burned a hole in the floor until Roy got there and it collapsed. And it actually desoldered a water line which ultimately that's what extinguished the bulk of the fire, and which kicked on the sump pump, which all those combinations together degraded the piping and the water leaking out of the side of the house, but it put itself out by the time we got there. So we got there, we had a box full of cold smoke type of thing and very, very little fire.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happened with the.
And to kind of paint the picture, like upon arrival, we were basically entering an underventilated overhaul stage. That had we been inside and won the fire ourselves, we would have transitioned into overhaul. So we're entering thinking we're attacking a fire, but we're just in overhaul. So there is that cold smoke. There is things that have already happened with the fire that we don't know, like the hole in the floor, the degraded stairs, the water lines. So like I said, hindsight, but yeah, that was the environment that we're walking into is a pretty classic overhaul, ready for ventilation, check for extension. That's kind of where we entered.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. And that kind of goes along with during our interviews and with lessons learned, the IC incident commander stated that he had a hard time maintaining control of the incident because companies were self-deploying and assuming assignments, and he felt like he was trying to play catch-up with that. So, as you know, probably more than most people, the near misses and the line of duty death reports that we read about, there's a common theme. It's rapidly changing conditions. It's situational awareness type things. But for us on this incident, there was no rapidly changing conditions. The conditions had already done their thing and done the damage, and then we got there and we kind of rapidly progressed ourselves because of us by not having a good grasp of what was happening and maybe slowing down a little bit, which is okay to do sometimes.
I think one of the biggest benefits we've had, especially with lessons learned, it was such an atypical event. Not only just how the fire started and how it put itself out and how we entered in overhaul, but if you kind of compare it to the Project Mayday stats, which, I mean, anybody can look those up, but the time of the event with Roy being on the fourth due, staffing levels, all those factors were very, very low on what you could call the probability scale for the Project Mayday. I mean, they were in the 5 to 4%. But the interesting thing to us was from the second the Mayday happened, then everything lined up very high in the probability as far as self-rescue, nearest crew, getting Roy out, things like basement involvement and situational awareness. All those things went from a very low probability event to the outcomes being very, I don't want to say predictable, but in line with what has happened to other reported Maydays. So the things we can't control as far as time of event, how it went, what order he's going to arrive in, those things we can't control, but it all falls right back in line. And those are the things that we can train on and we can be better at, is the controllable things after the Mayday starts. So, that was a pretty big lesson for us. And that's kind of where we were able to focus our efforts. So.
Yeah, and just to continue on some of the lessons learned, the inconsistent level 1 staging was addressed. It's a little easier for us. It's been a point of contention, I would say, since we started the blue card model, getting used to having our units stage and be disciplined about staging. We all want to get there and start throwing what we can early at the problem to make the problem go away and make rescues, which is when you bypass level 1 staging and you don't know, you don't have any indicators of, flame showing from a window or, obvious smoke conditions on a certain floor. When you have these weird type of incidents where the location is unknown and everybody needs to have a heightened situational awareness, when you bypass the level 1 staging, you can get ahead of the incident, which is what happened here. So the inconsistent level 1 staging, when the fire location is unknown, having a higher situational awareness. And then a lot of people during our interviews reported that proper floor sounding practices were not observed or utilized, just based secondary to this incident, how it was presenting as a kind of a no big deal type of conditions, which kind of goes back to how we're trained, how we're training our people, having those crew expectations and just being disciplined and diligent with our jobs, running those automatic alarms, dressing out appropriately, bringing the appropriate tools every time, because when this occurs, that's going to help you out.
Yeah.
I can't read any of that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one before that?
No idea. Nope.
Yeah. So
this is just the Mayday occurred roughly at the same time as the basement involvement was confirmed. So that kind of taught us some lessons.
Yeah, and that kind of marries up with we were moving. It wasn't rapidly changing conditions. It was rapidly changing, moving crews, basically. So, for us, it's okay to slow down sometimes when you don't have all the pieces that you need on the front end of the incident a little bit. It's okay to have a little bit of caution and to slow down and take some deep breaths a little bit. So, yeah. And then a lot of policies. Our basement fire policy, helmet unit identifiers, our Mayday policies.
Tell me about that. How did you end up with helmets that had the wrong identifiers on them?
It's not atypical for people to get moved around in a day because of every training, outside training, sick calls, vacations, meetings, all that stuff. So when we have it set up to where it's a Velcro, you remove it off your helmet, you put it on the board in the bay, you go to the other station, you grab, hopefully the other one will be there, you put it on there. But that doesn't always happen, so people move around bringing their helmet unit identifiers with them, and they'll be in a different district, on a different station, different apparatus with the same one that they had, whatever the last time they were there. So that can add some confusion. So we need to clean that up in our policy as well.
Are you working on that?
Yeah, we're working. It's taken some time. We're working through. There's probably 10 policies that we need to address. And it's a good idea for fire departments in general to every few years, you just got to go through those and readdress them, clean them up, or add to them, or whatever, just to make sure we're all operating in a standard way. So.
And as far as the helmet unit identifiers, even if it's not inked formally in a new SOP, I think informally it's kind of starting to, maybe we should take this a little bit more seriously. So, I mean, I've noticed that it's much more correct than it maybe was previously to this incident, without anything being said top down. Because I think just everybody kind of looking around going, okay, we could probably be a little bit better about that. But yeah, I also can admit that I was not great about that. So.
Okay. Are your radios tracked like are there identifiers on the radio that says this is truck 75 officer radio, this is jump seat radio, this is, so when they key the radio, dispatch knows. Do you ever have those radios get inadvertently into the wrong positions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
With one's out, you'll grab, say one's out on the med unit, you'll grab one off the spare BC, or, we've only got 3 of the truck today, so let's grab the truck 4 spot.
Yeah. Yeah. On one of the, on one of my interviews is actually related to a line of duty death in Asheville, North Carolina, and they ended up having a captain fatality, but there were 2 radios in there, and 2 different Maydays called on 2 different radios. And while they were the same crew, dispatch identified that the 2 radios were 2 different companies. So they thought they had 2 companies in Mayday, but they really had 1 company in a Mayday. They were together, but the radio, long story short, the one firefighter was actually off doing training on another apparatus, driver training, when they got the call, and he responded. He got back on his personal vehicle, went to the incident scene, joined up with his company, but he still had the radio on from the truck that he was doing the driver training on. And when they called the Mayday, they said that vehicle has that apparatus has a Mayday, and that apparatus wasn't even on the scene, but the radio was. Wow. And it just, I wondered how you guys managed through those challenges of, at the beginning of shift, you do something to make sure that every radio is the right radio in the right position, or anything like that? Or
I think for the most part, and they're labeled on the outside of the radio too.
Oh, okay.
So I know what radio I'm grabbing if I have the wherewithal to take a look.
Okay.
I think our best efforts are to keep radio integrity where it is. I think where it gets dicey is when radio malfunctions and when we're just doing a replacement, or we're rebanding, that everybody does every 36 hours or so.
We do routine radio checks too. With dispatch on Sunday mornings.
Right.
Typically, they'll go through all the radios, and they'll do different channels, you know, so that everybody has to find a different channel, and then I'll do radio checks on that channel.
All this reminds me of asking a question is, when the Mayday was called, the battalion chief who was the incident commander, were they alone at command?
No, and it was an out-of-class battalion chief. He was a captain. We're acting as the BC.
Okay.
Next to him was that automatic aid, battalion 6-1.
Okay.
Got there a little bit later, but we had at the time, our logistics chief showed up, who was
who's a former BC.
Former BC. It was just kind of before he's worked, you know, a few months before his retirement, really. Very experienced, one of our probably best officers and chiefs that you know, in my career anyway. And he was there, which certainly helped that IC acting in that out of class position. And then we had our training chief show up, and who's now our operations chief. And then our current training chief, it was like his second week, and he was just, the only reason they even went to the fire, they don't usually go to like every fire like that. I think they just went so our new training chief could kind of see how we operate, and then we had a Mayday. So,
I bet that captain riding up is probably thinking, what the heck? The first Mayday in the history of the department's got to be on my watch when I'm riding up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you interviewed him, what was his stress level like?
Global. I mean, he's the IC. It was all encompassing.
Yeah, and I think that's something super interesting of note too.
Yeah.
Is from his perspective, it was very chaotic. And he says it in the video. It was very chaotic for our SAM officer, who was slightly exterior. It was somewhat chaotic. But if you talk to the Engine 7-3 officer, Engine 7-5 officer, Roy and Perry, it was very calm, calculated, plan was executed and exited. So it's you know, the dichotomy of that's kind of neat. You know, you get the inside was super calm, but the outside looks like a swarm of bees. To the IC, you know, that's a tough message to mix up.
Yeah, and when I watched the video, probably more than anybody, putting this thing together, and like Cody was saying, your perception is your reality based on what your position is. Like, if you're the IC, you're in charge of everything. If you're the SAM officer during a Mayday, you're trying to control that entry point, right? And being this house, how it was made up with that front porch, that entryway, with crews already there doing, you know, work that they're supposed to be doing in that position, and it being a small area, every little bump, every little voice contact is notable, and then you throw a Mayday on top of that, it's amplified exponentially, I think. So when they were telling me, you know, it was complete chaos, there were crews rushing to the scene to try to make entry. You know, when we're doing this, we kind of played around with the fact that if we just muted this and just played this video, like, I don't think anybody would even know that there was a Mayday.
There's not a bunch of haste movement, you know. About the only running on the whole thing is somebody, you know, slightly jogging an attic ladder.
Yeah,
but nobody around
requested.
But it was requested.
They were just going up there to.
So
was that the ladder that went in and down the hole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting for sure.
So it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. All right. What are some other lessons or takeaways or things that you would want the viewers to know about this incident?
The biggest thing for us is that this is, you know, an everyday type of call. This is a smoke investigation. This is, you know, a very no big deal type of incident is how it came in and how it was perceived. And it certainly was not that way. I mean, we almost severely injured a guy for a fire that had already de-escalated, and we didn't know anybody. We had no reports that anybody was in there, so we wanted to get in there and search as quick as possible. But that being said, this could happen to you know, anybody on any type of day. And for us, really, you know, going back to your class, when I took one of your classes a few years ago, these situational awareness barriers really popped in my head. And I started really kind of focusing and talking to everybody involved, and it just all fell into line. I mean, from the second the tone dropped to what was happening on the interior too. There's several, and you know, we're not going to get we're not going to give you our whole spiel, but we're able to like identify and correlate a lot of your barriers that happened on this event. And for our people that have not gone to your classes, it was an eye opener for them, for sure. So that's been something from a training standpoint for us that we're trying to address is how do we improve this? Like once you know about them, you're already making a step in the right direction, but how do we as a training division incorporate how to combat these on our drills?
I often think when I'm teaching the class that there are people in there that think I'm just sharing theory. This stuff wouldn't really happen. Wouldn't happen to me. I would not hear my radio. I pay attention. And I sometimes think it's a hard sell to people who've never had those things happen to them. But then once those things do happen to somebody, then they have that like Shazam kind of epiphany, like that stuff's real. That really happens. And for you to have been through the class and then to do all those interviews, you were probably just kind of like checking it off in your mind. Oh yeah, that's that, and that's that, and that's that, and this really wasn't even it was a high stress incident, but for a very short period of time. You know, you extend that Mayday, firefighter down, don't know where they're at, don't know how we're going to get to them, get them rescued, fires lapping at us, low air alarm, pass device activation, and it all just gets escalated even further. Yeah. And you know, I didn't create those barriers. Those barriers came from me doing exactly what you did and interviewing people who've been through those events. And then I was just trying to say, well, what were the situational awareness connections that contributed to your near miss or a casualty? And just having heard it so many times, started to make a list. Okay, well, this one is a big deal because it happens a lot, and this one's a big deal because it happens. And that's where all that came from. I didn't invent anything. All I did was just interview people, and like you did, and it was like, wow, it's all there. Just like probably some of the Project Mayday stuff that you're aware of. You're like, oh yeah, that was our day. You know, those things are real. That really happens. And it kind of gives some validation to some of the things that I'm trying to put out in the podcast and in the classes, because I truly believe there are skeptics out there because think they've never experienced those barriers, that they're somehow just theory and not real things that really happen to smart people, talented, experienced people. You know, they're well, so that's good to hear.
I'll tell you, like, if you're a first responder, these have happened to you. You may not know that they have. Yeah. And before I took your class, there were things that happened to me as a new company officer or acting out of class officer, and I was like, I don't know why. Like, why did I say that? Why did I say what I said on the radio? Like, it freaked me out sometimes, you know, because I was going through some of that tunnel vision and, you know, the visual cortex capacity filling up and losing all kinds of things. And it scared me, you know, and so a lot of this opened my eyes, and I realized, you know, how vulnerable we really are, and how physiologically you can't control a lot of these things happening, but you can control how you prepare for things. And I think that's what we focus on.
Yeah, and I think that the more you understand that those things can happen, the more alert you are for the potential that they are happening to you. You know, I sometimes, although it sounds redundant, I always say that my class is a class of awareness about awareness. To make you aware of those awareness things that can happen, so that when they do happen in the moment, you're more conscientious about the fact that, oh, it's happening to me, you know, because it can happen so stealth that you don't even realize it's happening. All right, anything else? Roy, I want to know what were your lessons learned. So, you know, somewhere in there you've clicked something and says, I am smarter now than I was that day. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the lessons of that truck riding firefighter who's going to pull up on an incident similar to this that you'd say, I want to make sure that you know these things that were my takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much confirm what you see and confirm that you're on the same page with everybody else. because I saw what I saw, and it wasn't what was going on.
So we talked about the pre-arrival lens. That messed you up, didn't it?
Yeah, big time. I thought it was an attic fire, the stick being up and everything else going on. I put it in my head it was an attic fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then just not paying attention to radio traffic or having someone there to put me on the right page. That was big too. And then slowing down. You know, there was no flames. There's no one hanging out a window. Why was I going 100 miles an hour? Because I wanted my new guy to get some experience? Sure, but realize, you know, things aren't always what you see, and you got to be aware, you know, make sure everyone's confirming what you see and you're on the same page. So,
Okay.
that was big. Going back to, you know, sounding the floor, you know, I saw my feet. I figured I didn't need to sound it because I thought it was an attic fire. So just doing that, I mean, you're in an ideal age. Do everything you've been taught to do and do it every time. Easier said than done because you figured you got a task you want to get done. So realize you got to be systematic, and you still got to do what you should be doing instead of rushing and trying to get everything done faster than you need to. So that was another big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just so task fixated. Everything else didn't matter.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah. All right.
Which is hard because, you know, in training and we teach academies and we like to teach our new firefighters to be very task oriented. And you're going to be good at stretching lines, checking your nozzle at the door, forcing doors, but not at the expense of losing some of your situational awareness stuff. So, you know, for us, and you know, that's how I was taught. I was yelled at, actually. I can remember being yelled at in my academy why are you on the floor? You stand up. If you can see your feet, you can walk. You know, and if you're still teaching your people that, you know, you're not doing them any justice. It's and just as an example.
Yeah.
So.
Anything else that you guys would want to share that I haven't been able to extricate out of you with my line of questioning? I feel like an interrogator. Anything you'd want to say in wrapping this up?
I would just encourage people, even if they think, like we just said, like even if you think it's a small event, if you think anybody can learn anything from it, especially your fire department or somebody in your region, just put it out there. Like, we kind of have to shed a little bit of ego, which I think we did pretty well as a department, and kind of called ourselves out, but hopefully to the benefit of whoever watches it. So it's not too small.
Yeah. So you guys, I guess we should say something about this. You guys put this program out to your members, but then some of the other fire departments in the region have reached out and said, hey, can you come and do something for us about what happened? And, you know, it really does say something very complimentary that that even within the region, they're not saying, oh, those dumb firefighters in Thornton had a Mayday, you know, because they were doing stupid stuff. And no, they're saying they had a Mayday. Let's learn from this, invite them in and get this program so that maybe we won't have one. And it just kind of says something about a learner's mindset regionally, you know, because you're in the North Metro, and you were telling me before we started rolling that now you've kind of got the message rolling in the North Metro. Now you got the South Metro saying, hey, you know, we're hearing about this program that you guys got based on your Mayday. Swing down here and share those lessons with us. And that's a lot of work on you guys' part to share that so many times to so many audiences. But so important to be so open with those lessons and how things unfolded and what we learned and what we're changing is powerful. And, you know, this fact that you're doing the podcast is you know, very complimentary to the department and yourselves, that you're willing to sit down and be interviewed like this. But then to take it regionally is a big deal. Where could somebody go to learn more about this incident? Is there? You said there was a YouTube video. You're going to give me that, and I'm going to incorporate that into this podcast. But is there anything on the department's website or
There isn't anything on the website right now. We're kind of working through the social media aspect. Actually, after this, I have a meeting with the person that does our social media stuff.
Okay.
It's on the secret list. I just sent it to those guys.
Okay.
And I included the YouTube link on that, and I haven't heard back, but I'm sure it'll be available on that on that website, and that's in conjunction with Firefighter Close Calls.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can provide my email. And
I'll get it from you offline and put it in the show notes.
Yeah, if anybody wants to contact me, I'd be more than happy to share that. And I also want to note that, you know, when we were doing this for our fire department, Roy was not, he was there when we went to his station and we did it. And he was comfortable enough to, you know, I approached him and I was like, well, here's where this thing is heading. It would be really nice to have you as a first person accountability to be part of this. And I didn't want to push him into it. I didn't want to, you know, make him uncomfortable, but he was with us for every class that we did up here for the region. And I probably had more people come up to me, and I saw the amount of people going up to him that were so appreciative that he was there. And he was giving his first account impression of what happened to him, which speaks volumes to him. And I think it's helped him process all of this stuff. So that's where we've got to be better as a fire service. And I think we're moving in that direction, to be more transparent, and it's okay to share, what happened. And even if you, like Cody said, if you think it's not big enough, it's too small of an event, there's people out there that are going to find value in it for sure. So, Roy has been a huge addition to this program, this presentation for us.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for taking the time today to sit and to chat with me. I know you got busy agendas and things that you could be doing instead of this, but you chose to gift this time to the show. And for that, I'm thankful. And I'm sure that the listeners and the viewers are going to be very thankful of your candor to share what happened and to be so open and honest about it. And I'm very grateful that you spent some time with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
It
was great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Fire-Medic Roy Lapid, Captain Bret Wentworth, and Lieutenant Cody Larson for sharing your time and experience with us over these last 3 episodes. Yeah, well, I never thought we'd make it this far, but here we are. Our show is fast approaching our 5th anniversary. I'm very proud that we are the longest running, consistently broadcasted, independently operated show focused on a singular mission: to improve the safety and survival of individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. Let me pause for a moment and elaborate on one small component of that last statement, the consistently broadcasted part. A new episode of this show has been released every Tuesday for the last 5 years. I have never missed a Tuesday. Never ever. No other podcaster in this space can make that claim. In fact, most podcasters fade after just a dozen or so episodes, or they become very inconsistent with airing new episodes. Not me. You can set your clock by the fact that you're going to have a new episode coming to you every Tuesday morning. There it'll be for you to watch or listen to. It's my promise to you. Now, I have to admit it's not an easy promise to keep. My travel schedule means that there are times when I'm recording or editing this show well after midnight on Monday night, because I know I got to keep my promise to have that episode available for you by Tuesday morning. And I totally understand why other podcasters fade or become inconsistent. It can become lonely here behind the mic or the camera. And by lonely, I mean podcasters and videocasters rarely get any feedback from the viewers. The viewers, the listeners, the viewers, that's you. We don't get feedback. We don't. Sure, we see the stats that tell us the episode's getting downloaded thousands of times, but we rarely have anybody write a review or send an email with some feedback on the show. So we really don't know if the show's inspiring or not. But I just keep on keeping on, putting out the best possible safety-focused content that I can. Now, to honor those who watch and listen to the show, we're going to do some giveaways from products from our sponsors and supporters, like this, like hats from Midwest Fire, like sweatshirts from Midwest Fire, cool stuff from our sponsors and supporters. Listen to the upcoming episodes and watch the SAMatters website to see more about that. The Situational Awareness Matters show was launched in 2014 with a purpose: to give a platform to those who've had near-miss events, an opportunity to tell their stories. When I'm on the road delivering classes on situational awareness, I often ask the attendees if anyone in the room has had a near-miss event, and they have shared amazing stories. Stories like the ones that you listen to on this show, the ones from Thornton Fire. Stories like that motivated me to launch this podcast in the first place, so those lessons learned could be shared with a bigger audience. That bigger audience is you. The Situational Awareness Matters show, podcasted as SAMatters Radio, and our companion video program on YouTube, SAMatters TV, along with other videos that we have posted there, have enjoyed over 800,000 downloads. That number blows my mind and far exceeds my expectations. I am so thankful for your support and so honored to be able to provide this platform so that these amazing stories can be shared. And if you like the show, I'd like you to do a solid favor for me. Subscribe. It's easy. For the audio version of the show, you just search SAMatters Radio. SAMatters Radio on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio. For the video version, you subscribe to SAMatters TV on YouTube, SAMatters TV on YouTube. And if you find the show valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you would write a review and give it a rating. Your ratings and reviews help others to find the show, but more importantly, your ratings and reviews inspire me. Inspire me to work harder for you.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars. SA matters.
Go versus no-go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters. So don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and have trained over 75,000 individuals to improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery process operators, and many more. If you or someone you know works in a high-risk, high-consequence decision-making environment, then we are here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important mission of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. The Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. The Ponderosa Fire Department in Houston, Texas. The Northwest Volunteer Fire Department in Houston, Texas. And the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And by the time this episode airs, I will be at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to
get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen them before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond to calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that he just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. So I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
They're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. Situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well, and I'm looking forward to the second half.
If you're interested in where we're going to be upcoming, here's the schedule. April 11th, we will be at the Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. From there, we're heading to Washington State for the Washington Fire Training Officers Association Conference in Wenatchee. From there, we're heading to Georgia for the International Association of Fire Chiefs Company Officer Leadership Series on April 25th in Atlanta. Then we're heading to Minnesota, April 27th, for the Cook County Emergency Management Agency Seminar in Grand Marais. Then we're heading to North Carolina, April 30 and May 1, for the New Hanover County Fire Department Officer Development Seminar in Wilmington. And then on to Indiana. On May 7th, we will be at the Scott Township Fire Department in Evansville. From there, we're going down to Nashville. On May 8th, we'll be presenting at the FAST 19 Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. And then we're going back to Washington on May 21 for the Washington State Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Kennewick. If you want to see the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website. They're all listed there. Every one of them. Maybe I'm going to be somewhere near you and you can attend a program. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab while you're at the website. I'll give you a call. It's easy to set up. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there are several ways you can do that. Check the show notes for how to get connected with us by signing up for our monthly newsletter, subscribing to the SA Matters radio podcast, subscribing to the SA Matters TV YouTube channel, and how to follow us on the social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 258 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guests, Thornton Fire-Medic Roy Lapid, Thornton Fire Captain Bret Wentworth, and Thornton Fire Lieutenant Cody Larson, for sharing your time and experience with us today. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. If you're in the market for a pumper tanker, or brush truck, you need to check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations and associations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted live stream training programs where I come to your organization live via the internet and train your members. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. The feedback from the Online Academy graduates has just been amazing and humbling, and I thank you so much for that. Most importantly, though, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SAMatters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.